Have you ever tried to relive a perfect moment? Maybe you went back to a place that once made you happy, thinking you could recapture that feeling, but somehow it wasn't the same. The food didn't taste as good, the streets felt different, and you just weren't as excited. That unsettling realization that you can remember happiness but never truly repeat it is exactly what Søren Kierkegaard explores in Repetition, a strange, playful, and quietly devastating little book written under the pseudonym Constantin Constantius. Constantius is obsessed with the question, can we truly repeat an experience, not just remember it, not just go through the motions, but actually bring back the same feeling, the same magic? He decides to test this by returning to Berlin, a city where he once had a great time. He eats at the same places, visits the same theaters, retraces his steps exactly. But it doesn't work. Something is missing. What once felt full of life now feels hollow. When you have once enjoyed the best, he writes, you have no right to expect that it will ever be repeated. It's a brutal truth. Nostalgia lies to us. The past isn't something we can reach back into and relive. The moment is gone, no matter how much we wish it weren't, but that's only half the story. Repetition isn't just about Constantius. It also follows a young man who is deeply in love, but terrified of what comes next. He worries that if he stays in the relationship, the love will fade into routine, becoming predictable and lifeless. He wants his passion to stay fresh, to feel exciting forever. And what advice does Constantius give him? Instead of telling him to fight for love, he actually encourages him to leave. Repetition is reality, he says, and it is the seriousness of life. In other words, life itself is repetition. Waking up next to the same person, going to the same job, having the same conversations. If you're not ready for that, you're not ready for real life. Kierkegaard, of course, was writing from experience. He famously broke off his own engagement to Regine Olsen, convinced that the thrill of love couldn't survive the dull rhythm of marriage. It's hard not to see repetition as his way of working through his own doubts, almost trying to justify his decision to himself. But here's where the book takes a turn. By the end, Kierkegaard suggests that while repetition in the physical world is impossible, happiness, love, excitement will always fade if we expect them to stay the same. There is another kind of repetition, a spiritual one. Instead of chasing old experiences, we should look for something deeper, something that renews itself from within, rather than trying to recreate what has already passed. So, what does all this mean for us? Basically, we can never go back, but maybe we don't need to. Instead of trying to force the past to return, we have to find a way to experience life as new, even in its repetitions. Maybe love doesn't have to stay thrilling. It just has to grow into something more profound. Maybe happiness isn't about chasing old highs, but about learning to see meaning in the quiet moments. Maybe repetition isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace.